Hello, everyone. If you're here for the intro to setting up your admissions application, you're in the right place. We will get started here in just a couple minutes, or 1 minute probably. Hello, everyone. Joseph Schoolin speaking. Good to have you on the call. Let's go ahead and get started. A few little details you should take note of, and that is that whenever you have a question, please just put it into the Q&A box. Hopefully you can find that on your end. I think there's also a chat box, but that one's a little harder for me to dig into. And once I do dig into it, it's harder for me to figure out which questions I've answered or which ones I haven't. So that Q&A box is the one I'll be paying attention to. Put your questions in there and we'll go through. I will just put your questions in as you think of them, as they pop into your head. And I'll probably wait until the end to answer them. Before we begin, let me go ahead and log in, and I want to show you something I show everybody every single time. So maybe some of this you've seen before and it's sinking in. Maybe this is your first time, but I like to always tell people where you can find help. I figure if you only learn one thing from this is to know how to get help, especially if sometimes these things are like drinking from a fire hose and you can't remember what we covered. It's good to get those memories back. You'll notice I'm now in my demo college. You should be able to see my screen and I'm my mouse moving around. So if you can't, throw something in the question box and I'll take a look and see what's wrong. But this button right up here in the top right says help. If you're the type who likes to research on your own, you can search the knowledge base. If you want to reach out to one of us, and we love it when you do this. We love talking with our people. And we love supporting our support team, making sure that they're happy and love their job at Populi. So this is not a last resort. This is whenever you feel like it. If it's the first thing you want to do that. If it's not, that's okay. If you like to research a little bit, that's okay too. But don't beat your head against the wall for 3 hours and then finally call us. That would make us really sad. Our support hours are Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. I almost got those support people to get up an hour earlier. You just hit open a support request and you'll send us an email our way. All faculty and staff get email and phone support, and then students get email only. If you want to see your requests, you can click this. You can also see them in your email. If you want to make a feature request, you can go here. If you want to interact with other clients, you can go here. If you want to give us a call, do that. 877, the number 4, and the word Populi. That's 877-4-Populi. I just clicked search the knowledge base. And this is a real handy place to keep an eye on, especially here, the promoted articles. I'm guessing you've already been here because you can see that we're working on this right now, the intro to setting up your admissions application. Some other handy ones are getting started with your school's new Populi site. This organizes all the Populi tutorials in a certain order. So even if you're not brand new to Populi, but maybe you have a new staff or something, that's always a good one to go over and maybe even periodically go over. How to contact us and what we can do for you, I just told you, but if you forget, you can go in here and you can find our phone number in there too. Today we care about admissions, so I'll click on that bubble. And in getting started in admissions, we've got a number of steps. We're going to zoom in on the applications only today. Try and get into as much detail as we can. There you go. That's how to find help. Let's jump in. My view allows me to see all kinds of stuff. I can see financial and academics. And so really, you might just have access to admissions and that's all, and that's fine. Don't freak out if it looks a little different on your end. I just happen to have access to everything in this demo college. So first things first, I want to give a quick overview of just how we structured admissions, and then I also want to do an overview of what it's like for the applicant to go through the application process. So I'm going to kind of start with the end in mind, what we want to happen for the applicant, and then we'll go through it again, setting up the application with that end in mind. A few things that are important to know just generally about admissions are that this leads table is really the center of the action. We do have an inquiries table and an applications table, but really everyone who you're dealing with in admissions is going to be a lead. And I understand that you might use different jargon, and that's fine. I just want you to understand the jargon that Populi uses so you can get used to it. We call everybody who you might be working with in admissions a lead. There are 7 different types of leads: prospect, inquiry, application started, application completed, accepted, confirmed, and enrolled. And so they're all going to be on here in different phases. We're going to focus on our applicants who have started an application or completed an application, or we're about to accept them. That's kind of where we're floating around right now. Now, when somebody, you can put your inquiry form on your website. You can also put your application form on your website. When they come through that website, the form itself can be processed here under the inquiries table. So notice how Joseph Schooland's name shows up twice here. That's because I have 2 different inquiry forms. Even though I would only be 1 lead, I have 2 forms. Same for applications. You might have multiple applications going, or an old one that got declined and now there's a new one. Whatever, this is just helping you process through the forms that have been submitted, even though there's only going to be 1 lead on the leads side. So that's just one thing to be clear. Not everyone intuitively sees that, so I just want to make sure you got that, and maybe that will help answer some questions. All right. I'm going to click on one of our applications, and the way we get this application onto your website, or the way you get it onto your website, is you copy and paste your embed code and you give it to your webmaster and they embed it somewhere on your website. If they want, they can go into other settings and actually add some custom CSS. If this is way over your head, that is totally okay. But if your webmaster is particularly into design and knows HTML, knows CSS, then they might want our form, fonts and box shapes and all that to match what your website looks like. And they can do that by putting in custom CSS here. Again, if it's over your head, ignore it. Don't need to get into those details if it doesn't apply to you. All right, this is what that application form looks like that would be in your website. My example here is not in anybody's website. It's just floating in white space. But we'll use it so that we can start an application. So it's just this little form that starts the application for the applicant. And so we'll go ahead and type in, I don't know, Bobby at populi.co. Phone number, this is what's really required, is the name and email. Phone number isn't necessarily required. You can also have them opt in for text messaging if you want. This doesn't have to be here if you don't want it to, but you can have them choose their program. This doesn't really make a lot of sense. I just let them choose any program they want. But of course, it's probably going to be a different application for undergrad versus grad. So we'll say they just want undergrad. And then I can also have them choose their entrance term. And this is old data, so forgive that. But you can also default this just to be the next term. So the name and email are always going to be here. Phone's always going to be here. And then you can have these here or not, because you can have certain applications that just default to certain programs. So the applicant doesn't get a choice. And you can have your entrance term default to the next term. Let's go ahead and hit submit. And now I, as the applicant, am taken to your application page. If you have your logo uploaded to Populi, then the applicant will see that right here. They'll see your school name here, and whatever you called the application is going to be here. So think about that when you're naming your applications. You want them to be something that you're okay with the applicant seeing. We've got a couple notes here. And as the applicant goes through the application, if they get a question, they can click on this, type in a subject, ask a question, maybe even drop a file like a screenshot, hit submit, and that will get sent to your admissions team for them to process it there. Here's a quick example of what your application might be like. All applications start out empty and blank, so you create them from scratch. So you're gonna have to just use your imagination to apply this to your own situation, but you can put things like headings throughout. This is a heading with this line across and some dark, larger words that are bold, application info. Here's some text, so you can put text boxes throughout. Here's a field. This field requires a file upload, and we have some information on why we need that. Here's another field. This field doesn't require anything except for you to check a box to say you completed a task. We have birth date, citizenship, race, ethnicity. The reason I have these three is because we also have some IPEDS reporting tools on the academic side. And so if you get this data now, then IPEDS becomes a really easy thing to report on later. Also, I'm going to show you how to set this up correctly, but if you set it up correctly, then once you accept the applicant or the application that the applicant has, then all the data within the application will go onto their profile, which means it lives there for the career of the student and even forever, for as long as that student's in your system, and you can pull reports on that. So it's really nice. You never have to copy and paste, manually enter anything. Whatever information is being gathered here will eventually end up on their profile as long as you accept them as a student. Notice how Populi auto saves as soon as the applicant fills something out. So we do not rely on the applicant to remember to hit save, or I don't know, maybe their internet got interrupted or something. In this scenario, if my internet died right now, I would have these two fields saved and I'd be able to go back and start where I left off. Here we've got a reference. This is what it looks like from the applicant point of view. On the other side, you can build out a reference form, attach it to a field like this. The applicant doesn't get to see the actual reference form, but they can put in their email address, maybe a personal note, sorry, not their email address, but the email address of the person they want to use as a reference, a personal note, hit send, and it will send that reference form off to that email address. You can also even tie it with some academic data, what degree they might be pursuing, which specialization, which could be major, minor, concentration, and so on, emphasis. And if you have us connected to your credit card merchant, then they can put in their credit card information for an application fee right here. All right, that is the end. We started with the end in mind. Let's go back to actually building an application. This is what it looks like. Well, actually, we're not quite to the end. Let me finish this up. Now, from the administrative point of view, on my applications table, I can see here's Bob Bobby. He started an application. Its status is currently in progress. Applications actually have a number of statuses. In progress, once Bobby submits it, the status will change to submitted. And then I could accept it or decline it, or he could withdraw. There's a few other statuses I could choose here. You probably already know about the filter and export capability, so I won't go over that here, but that's real handy just to get some data out or email these people or text these people. Now, when I click on Bobby, Populi is just going to show me the form. So we're kind of sticklers about making sure your data stays nice and clean and pure, and you don't get a bunch of duplicates piled up all over the place and you don't know who the real person is. And one of the ways we do that is every application that comes through, every inquiry form too, every form that comes through, a pair of human eyes needs to actually look it over and say, yep, this is a brand new person, or this person is already in our system, we're going to merge it into somebody else. And you do that over here. We paint it red so that you can see it easier, but it says Bobby is not linked to a person in Populi. So we got this application form, but there's no person tied to it. So what should we do next? Well, we can add Bobby as a new person, or if I have some insider information on someone else whose name is changed or email is changed, then I could link them to whoever I wanted in Populi. And then there's a third option that will show up if Populi finds someone else with the same name or email address in your system. Then a third option will pop up and say, I think I found somebody. Do you want me to merge these together? So right now it looks like there's no other Bobbies in my system as far as Populi can tell, because I only have 2 options instead of 3. I'll go ahead and add him as a new person, hit save, taken care of. And now if I refresh my page, he is a person. He's got a personal profile, got some other info, admissions tab, and we're looking at this same application. I can then go through and click on any one of these application fields. Theoretically, when Bob, I wouldn't touch anything until Bob is done. His status is still in progress. I mean, I can see his answers. No response here. Yes, a response here. No response here. Oh, he did put something in here. So I can see all the answers he's filled in. But he might change his mind for some reason. He might change the answers. And so I'd probably just leave this alone. I might check on it, but leave it alone until he actually changes his status to submitted. Let's pretend he did that. I'm going to waive his application fee so that we can do that. And submit. Well, I don't have enough time to hit all the required fields. Populi wants me to make sure all the required fields are full before I can submit it myself. So it's just got that little check in place, which is handy, but not handy when you're trying to show people stuff. So instead of me filling everything out, I'm just going to show, let's say, for example, Bob submitted his 500-word essay. So instead of it saying no response available, I see a file right there, and I can pull that file down and read the 500-word essay. I could then add some notes for myself. Looks good. Or I could say, Bob, you need to try again. I'm not. You probably want to speak more diplomatically, but I could say, Bob, you need to try again. Applicant will see this note, and I hit add note. I could even change the status from submitted to rejected. Say no, it only, or we could do that. It only has 400 words. And then I hit add note. And now Bob will be able to see this, and he'll be able to see that I marked this field rejected, and he can go in and upload something else. However you go through processing this, whatever workflow you start to develop along the way, when you're ready to accept this applicant, you just change the status to accepted. And like I said before, you could also decline them, or they could withdraw. There's other options here. But if we continue with the life cycle and we want to accept Bobby, then Populi will prompt me and say, oh, well, should we add a student role? Because right now, Bob doesn't have any roles. He doesn't have a student tab. He doesn't have any place to put any academic information. And the student role is essentially what carves out that spot for the academic record. And if we're going to add the student role, should we also import course of study? What this is along the way, Bob has probably chosen a program, or you've assigned it to him, or he's chosen a degree, maybe a major, maybe an entrance term. And this is saying, if it's checked, then Populi will move all that onto the academic record for you. I could also create a user account right now so that Bob can then log in and register for courses. Or I could say, well, I'll do that later. I don't want to quite do it yet until he replies back to me and says, yes, I'm definitely coming to your school. Once I hit save here, notice no student tab, no student roles. I hit save and I refresh. Now we've got a student tab and a campus life tab and a student role tab. So that was essentially the passing of the baton from the admissions team to the academic team. And I kind of force accepted everything by doing that, even though we didn't really have him finish submitting it or have me look over everything in detail. All right, so that's what you want to get to, and this is how you get there. To add an application, first off, if you want any particular fields that you're tracking, you're going to want to set those up in admissions fields. And if you want a reference form to be built in, you're going to want to make sure it's set up in online reference forms. And I'm going to skip over those now. We're going to go just to add an application, and I can call it undergrad application. Hit save. It just gets added to my list here, and I can click on it, and here I've got it. I can now, right now, I'll leave these settings alone. I'll go over those in just a sec. We have a design side and a preview side. Preview just lets me look, see what it's going to look like. Right now, it's not going to look like anything. It's blank. I can also edit the name if I want to. I can add something like a heading. Contact. Contact information as a heading. I could add text, any kind of text, fill out the info below. And I can add files to text, and that could even be a video or something. And then I can add fields. I could add a brand new one, or I could import a field that I've already created in another application and bring that over. I'll go ahead and add a new one. And I can give it whatever kind of name I want, whatever description I want. Enter your date of birth. Now, if this is something, some standard system field or a field that you're already tracking, when I say standard system field, I mean like birth date, social security number, race, ethnicity, citizenship, high school graduation date. These are all things that Populi has a place for it to land. Address, phone number, email, all that stuff. If you have a place for it to land, if you have a place where you want it to go, you don't just want it to be a data point inside your application, but you want it to end up on a profile. You want it to end up on a data field on their profile. Then you're going to say link to an existing field equals yes. And then you just choose where you want it to land. And so in this case, I have some custom admissions fields that I set up previously here. And so I could have it land there. So I can always just track those custom fields there. I've got some campus life custom fields where it would land under that tab and be visible to the campus life folks. Leads fields, these are built in. So I could have them answer education level, high school grad date. I've got a bunch of person fields. Some of these are going to be custom and some of them are going to be built in. Be careful whenever you're creating custom fields that you don't create a field that's already built in, or else it's going to confuse you. You're going to have two and it will probably mess you up. And then finally, student fields. These are custom fields that your academic team will see. And so I was going on birthday, so I'll just have it fill in birthday. Then I can say, is this field required? Yes or no. We'll say yes for now. There you go, birthday, enter your date of birth. If I go to preview, this is what it's going to look like: contact info, fill info, and then a field. Let's add one more field. This time, I don't want this to update anything. So I'll say, why did you choose our school? Something like that. I could give it a description if I want. I don't want it to link to an existing field because this is just for the purpose of them filling out the application. It's not going to go live on their profile. I'm not going to pull reports on it later. And I can choose what type of answer I want this to look like to the student. And really, I just want it to be a text, an essay answer. And I'll require that one. And then finally, there's a few things that you can add. So let's say professional reference. How do I add that? We also do not link to an existing field. We dig into the answer type and try and find our references. So here we've got online reference. I only have one built, so I only have one option. but you could build out 3, 5, 6, 10 types of reference forms and then choose which one is going to be tied here. And I can also have them fill out some academic information. And again, for academic information, I'm not going to link to an existing field. They're kind of creating a new field with this. And it is choose from a list. And I can build my own custom list, or I could do degree, specialization, race, ethnicity. These are some that will populate the rest of Populi's data. Or I think actually just degree and specialization can be transferred over to their academic record. So I'll choose degree, and it will just pull the list of degrees from your academics and show it to the student. At least the list of degrees that fall under whatever program is tied to this application. So it's not going to necessarily show them all degrees, just the ones tied to the program that's tied to this application. So there's a few options there. On the right side, when I'm ready, I can choose to show online. It starts out as no, which means it's just not available for anyone online. But if I choose yes, notice how there's no embed code down here, but I hit save, then Populi opens up that little embed code so I can copy and paste that, give it to my webmaster, get it on our website and go. You're probably going to have it be on no until you've actually polished and filled out the whole application and it's looking like you want. On that initial form, do I want them to opt in for text messaging, yes or no? Do I want to require an address on the initial form that's on my website, yes or no? If I don't require an address on the initial form, then I could just require it on the application itself by linking to an existing field and choosing the address field and have it fill out, let's say, home address. And I could have the field say home address, please enter your home address, and then go there. So when I say require address, I'm talking about what is gonna be on your website and filled out before they can start their application. Programs, by default, it's just gonna be your default program, but I could have it choose a certain program or let them choose between a number of programs. This one's gonna be undergrad. Hit save. So now they don't have a choice. It's just going to automatically tie the undergrad to their program. So in this scenario, if I had a grad program too, I'm going to put this embed code in the undergrad section of my website. And then I would put my grad embed code on the grad section of my website. By default, Populi is just going to give them the next entrance term. But if I want, I can choose a number of terms for them to choose from. Just list them there so they can choose. Default enrollment is full-time, but I can change that if I want. Do I allow them to be undecided, yes or no? Is there a fee associated with this? And when do I want the fee paid? Before they're even allowed to start the application or before they submit the application? If I'm tracking conversions and stuff, maybe I want to put a redirect URL. So where do I want them to go after they've submitted their application? And then what do I want their initial email to look like? Because we will email them as soon as they start an application. I can have it just be the default. I can have it be nothing, or I could customize it. And you're going to want these little variables in here if you do mess around with customizing. All right, so that is the setup behind the scenes. That's what we ended up seeing with our applicant. They're going to see it like this on this side. And we end up processing those applications. Some of the key things are understanding kind of what these settings do on the side. And probably, I think the most important time saver key thing is knowing what link to an existing field does and when to use it. So take note of those couple of things. All right, that is it. Let me look at your questions. Jacqueline says, why does the letter of recommendation field not track the resend invitation to complete the reference form in the answer history? I am not sure it actually resends it. Jacqueline, I don't quite understand that question. We don't have a letter of recommendation field. Are you talking about references? If you're talking about references, then maybe spell that out. Letter of rec. So when I think fields, just so that we're talking about the same jargon, Jacqueline, when I think fields, these are fields: birthday, why did you choose our school, reference, degree, and so on. And so we don't have a letter of recommendation field. We have a reference field. So maybe that's what you're trying to get at. How can you edit the resend application link email wording? I don't believe you can. I think it's just preset. So let's go ahead and look at a resend application link. It just gets sent off. And if you want to note that it has been sent, you can always look at the activity feed. Today I sent link email sent to that email address. And I can also go into the application under notes and files and see some history of those kinds of things too. So I just sent the link today under notes and files. I don't believe that you can edit the actual email that goes out. That might be something to talk to our support team about. Maybe they can edit it for you on their end. But I don't think that can be edited. I think it's just preset. Jacqueline, is there a way to send an automated thank you note once letters of recommendation have been submitted? If so, how can I change the wording of the automated message? And it looks like you are talking about references. Good. Is there a way to send an automated thank you note once the letters of recommendation? I don't know if an automatic thank you note, are you talking about a thank you note to the reference after they fill it out? If so, I don't believe we send anything. I think we maybe take them, just show on a page, thank you for submitting. So I think we keep it in the browser. I don't think we send them an email. And sorry for getting stumped, but that might be something, again, you could ask support and see if there is an email. And if there is, I don't see any settings for you to change it on your end. It might not be possible to change it on our end either. It's just preset, but you can ask them to see if it can get changed if you want the wording a little bit. So why does the reference form field not track resend invitation to complete the reference form in answer history? Are you talking about when a applicant needs to resend it, or if you're going to resend it? Because I don't think there's a way for you to actually send it, I believe. You can put it in here. So let's say we'll do send it to me, save. So I don't see a history like you're saying. If say I send it again, resend invitation. So you're wondering if it went through or not and how many times. So we just have a little note up here that says reference email sent. So we tell you that one time, but we don't tell you that did it over and over again. I suppose you could just leave yourself a quick note is the only answer I've got here. reference invitation sent. And you probably don't want the applicant to see it, but you can add that note here so that you see it internally. And if I go over here, looks like it goes the first time, but not the rest. And if I go into my notes and files, it doesn't look like it gets recorded. So looks like you just have to make a note to yourself. So sorry for not having a better answer on that. Cameron, how do you add future terms for applicants to apply to or for you to assign them to? Good question, Cameron. You got to work with your academics team. So the only terms that you can see on your end are, so when I go to the application, I want to add some future terms. I'm going to go into the application, click on the settings, and then choose whatever terms I want to add. I can only see the terms that the academic team has created. So if they're not getting far enough out, then you're going to need to work with them and say, hey, can you give us some more terms? Start. I know it's way ahead of time, but we like to see 5 years out. So if you could set up the next 5 academic years and the terms inside those, that would really help me. So you got to work with them. So we don't actually let you on the admission side enter this information, because then it would get sloppy when we try and transfer it to academics. We're actually just pulling the existing academic information. So Jacqueline, I think you were just putting these in as I was answering the question, but just to make sure we're totally clear, if you resend the reference form, Populi gives you a confirmation right here. So it was sent, it's sent. And that's all you get. And if you want more, you're gonna have to leave yourself a note for now. Definitely reach out to support if you'd like it to work differently, or maybe make a feature request, or look in there and see. Any other questions? You're welcome, Jacqueline. I'm glad I finally figured it out. I was, and I'm sorry it wasn't as helpful probably as you hoped, but I'm glad it was a little helpful. All right, well, looks like we're going to wrap up. Lydia, how do you embed the logo onto the application? Good question. So this is something that whoever has control over your account will do for you. So most people, probably only 2 people at your school have access to your account settings. If you click on your picture up here, or your initials, whatever it might look like, you'll see probably it will just say settings. If it says account in settings, and that means you have access to the account page too. And what they'll need to do is they'll need to come in here into account settings and look under appearance and make sure that they've got different logos uploaded. Header logo, screen logo, print logo. So they can upload those logos there themselves. Or if they can't figure it out, or just can't get the right logo and they want us to help them a little bit, then they can send the logos to the support team and we can work on it. But it has to be your account people putting that logo in for it to work. It's not something just the admissions folks can do. So on the application, we're just pulling from whatever you set up in your account section, whatever logo you want you have there. Same thing with transcripts and all other forms that end up with a logo on them. We're pulling that from the account section. So reach out to your account people, whoever they might be. Any other questions? Good. Well, I will wrap up. Um, if you have another question, go ahead and type faster. I'll try and wrap up a little slowly. But glad you all were on the call. Hope this was helpful. And if I don't see any questions here in a bit, then I will wrap it up. And yeah, if you have any questions, reach out to our support team. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to see this video or any other videos we have, check out our YouTube channel. We also post the videos inside of our help system, our knowledge base. So you can dig around in there, share them around, watch them again if you want. And if you want to have more one-on-one time with a person in a webinar setting, so with our support, it's just phone and email. But if you want like a webinar setting like this, then you can reach out to your account manager, and that would be me. I'm Joseph Schoolin. Some of you, I'm your account manager, and some of you, Nick Holloway is your account manager. If you reach out to them, they'll be able to schedule a training webinar to focus on your particular situation. Sherilyn asks, does admissions have access to put the student number in? No. I believe that they used to be able to edit the student number. But at this time, so if I say I want to, so remember how we, well, I'll go ahead and do it again. So if I want to mark Lavella as accepted and hit save, she's going to get a student tab when I refresh, and she's going to automatically get this student number. So Populi will auto-generate student numbers for you, and the admissions team doesn't decide what that is. There is a setting in here called the student ID number template. This is something that the academic team has to work on, but if you don't like our basic template, which is essentially just the year in 4 digits, so notice how Lavella's student number was 2020, and then it's 6 digits with a number for how many came through in that year. So Lavelle is the 3rd person I turned into a student this year, so she has a 3, and that number will keep on going up. But if you don't like that, then you can come down here, ask your academic team to edit the student ID number template. We even have an article that spells out exactly how to do it. You can do things like just a random number with so many digits. So 5 random digits or 7 random digits. You could have a counter. So it adds 1 on up, and you can have that counter be 1 digit long or 4 digit long, 4 digits long. Like here, counter 4 will give you 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0, 0, 3, and count all the way up. You can have year and give so many digits, month, so many digits, day, so many digits, last name, so many digits. So a number of different ways that you can make it work. And here's some examples. Any other questions? Way to squeeze that one in, Sherilyn. Okay, everybody. Stay safe, be healthy, have fun with Populi. Jacqueline, good job, Jacqueline. Is there a way to add 2 specializations for one program via the application? No, this specializations is again an academic thing. It's just like the terms. We don't let the admissions folks create academic type things like degrees or programs or specializations or terms. That's all done by academics. So if you need another specialization, then your academic team needs to create it. So here on my academics, I've got these 3 programs. I've got these 2 degrees. And in this particular degree, I've got these 2 majors. So if you need another major, then it's probably just not set up properly in your on your academic side. Unless you're saying you already have 2 specializations and you want to be able to add both of them and not just one. If that's your question, then I don't believe there's a way to do that on the admission side. I think that can only be done on the academic side. Yeah, I can only choose one specialization, even if I have multiple options on the admission side. Yeah, that's a good question, Jacqueline. If someone had a double major and they wanted to choose during the application, right now they're going to need to actually type that in somewhere or give you some extra information. It won't just be straight into the course of study. I think that'd be a good question to bring to our support, or a good feature request to add, because that would make sense. Cheryl Ann, when will we have another webinar like this one, or even training? I'm trying to do these every other week right now. So next one is going to be April 20 on admissions reporting. So that's when the next one is. And remember, just click that help button, and under promoted articles, you can see all the ones I've scheduled out. Again, if you want one-on-one webinar training, reach out to your account manager. If you don't know who your account manager is, then reach out to support and they'll be able to connect you. Okay, now I'm going, you're welcome, Cheryl Ann. And I'm gonna say goodbye. You notice how I like long goodbyes. It really just gives you time to finish typing your question in case you starred one, because it would be really sad if you got 3/4 through your question and then I killed it. But I think we're done. So I hope you all liked it. You all stay safe, and hopefully you're finding new and crazy ways to do things with these weird obstacles we have in this world. Obstacles can be frustrating, but every once in a while they can create new opportunities we didn't think of. So I hope those kinds of things are popping up for all of you, and you're blessed. All right, well, take care, everybody. Bye.